The morning sun rose over the sprawling city skyline, its golden light bouncing off the mirrored glass of the hospital's towering building. Inside, the atmosphere was tense, heavy with urgency. Nurses rushed through wide hallways, their shoes squeaking against polished marble floors. Monitors beeped rhythmically, oxygen machines hissed, and voices called out medical codes in rapid succession. It was just another busy day at St. Charles Memorial Hospital, except today, something far more extraordinary was unfolding. At the top floor, guarded by two private security men in dark suits, lay the wealthiest man in the city, billionaire industrialist Richard Harlow. Known for his vast empire that spanned shipping, technology, and finance, Richard had built his name on power, influence, and untouchable wealth. Yet here he was, pale and frail against a hospital bed, his fortune powerless to save him. For weeks, he had been battling a rare condition that baffled the country's top physicians. They called in specialists, flying them in from across the world. 15 of the finest doctors now surrounded his room, conferring over charts, test results, and experimental therapies. But nothing worked. Every treatment seemed to fail. Every option closed like a door locked in desperation. The billionaire's family, his estranged daughter, business partners, and lawyers, sat in a waiting room lined with leather chairs, speaking in hushed tones. Some whispered about inheritance, others about media fallout. Very few whispered about hope, because hope, it seemed, was slipping through their fingers. In the middle of this world of sterile corridors and polished authority was Samuel Sam Turner, the hospital's janitor. His uniform was worn, his shoes scuffed, and his hands carried the callus of years of unseen labor. To most, Sam was invisible, a shadow who swept floors, emptied trash cans, and polished the surfaces of a place that rarely acknowledged his presence. But behind his quiet eyes was a mind that carried brilliance, a sharpness passed down to his son, Elijah. Elijah was different. At just 16, he had a hunger for knowledge that outpaced boys twice his age. He devoured books from the library Sam brought home, asked questions about everything he saw, and often sat quietly sketching inventions or solutions to problems he imagined. His father, though humble and weak, never let his son forget his worth. "Your mind is a gift," Sam often told him. "Don't ever let the world's labels define what you can see." That morning, Elijah had come to the hospital to bring his father lunch. A small paper bag with a sandwich and fruit, made from what little they could afford. As he walked through the back entrance, where delivery trucks and janitorial staff usually pass unnoticed, he clutched his worn notebook tightly under his arm. It was filled with sketches, numbers, and ideas only he seemed to understand. When he entered the gleaming lobby, his father smiled at him warmly. "You didn't have to come all the way, son," Sam said, taking the bag from his hands. Elijah shook his head. "I wanted to. Besides, you always forget to eat when you're working." As they talked, a loud commotion erupted upstairs. Nurses and doctors rushed toward the elevator, whispers of code blue filling the hall. Sam and Elijah exchanged glances. Something serious was happening. Without intending to, Elijah's gaze followed the rush of people. His curiosity, that insatiable pull, wouldn't let him look away. Minutes later, a group of doctors passed through the corridor, their conversation sharp and worried. "We've tried everything. His organs are shutting down." "No, the medication isn't stabilizing him. It's like the body is rejecting the treatment entirely." Elijah listened, wide-eyed, absorbing every word. He pulled out his notebook, flipping through pages where he had copied down medical articles he read online and diagrams of the human body he had studied on his own. Something about what they said, about what was happening upstairs, struck him as strange. Later, while Sam polished the floor near the waiting area, Elijah wandered to the corner where a glass wall revealed the billionaire's room. The man lay there, connected to machines, his face drawn. Around him, the 15 doctors argued, frustrated and desperate. To anyone else, it was just another medical crisis. But to Elijah, the scene formed a puzzle, one that spoke to his mind louder than the noise of arguments. He noticed patterns others didn't. The irregular beeping of the monitor didn't just sound like chaos. To him, it was like a rhythm out of sync with a natural beat. The billionaire's skin tone wasn't just pale. It had a discoloration that reminded Elijah of a condition he had once read about late at night in an old medical journal. His eyes moved from machine to machine, from the way the four dripped to the way his chest rose and fell. And slowly, an idea began to take shape. But who would listen to him? He was just a boy, the son of a janitor, invisible to the people in white coats who spoke with authority and dismissed those who didn't belong. He clutched his notebook tighter, his heart racing. When one of the doctors stormed out of the room in frustration, Elijah caught a glimpse of the chart in his hand. Words flashed in front of him: toxic buildup, system failure, and unknown rejection. And suddenly, Elijah knew, or at least he thought he did. That evening, as the hospital lights flickered on, Sam found Elijah still seated in the hallway, his notebook open, pages filled with frantic sketches. "Son, it's late. We should go home." But Elijah shook his head, eyes burning with conviction. "Dad, I think I know what's wrong with him." Sam stared at him, torn between pride and fear. "Elijah," he began, but his son interrupted. "They can't see it, but I do. It's not the disease that's killing him. It's the treatment. His body is rejecting what they're giving him. They are poisoning him without knowing it." Sam froze. Could his boy really see what 15 doctors couldn't? Could a janitor's son carry the key to saving the man whose wealth had built skyscrapers and bought power? As the night deepened, Elijah's words echoed in his father's mind. And though Sam wanted to protect his son from ridicule, he knew this moment was bigger than fear. For sometimes, genius hides in the most unexpected places, waiting for the world to finally listen. The hospital cafeteria was nearly empty, the hum of vending machines filling the silence. Sam and Elijah sat at a corner table, a paper tray between them with untouched food. Elijah's notebook was spread wide open, pages filled with arrows, chemical structures, and quick sketches of human anatomy. His pen moved fast, connecting dots with an urgency Sam had never seen in him before. "Dad, look," Elijah whispered, pointing at a drawing of a liver. "The medication they are giving him is supposed to stabilize his organs, but his enzymes don't match the standard reaction. If his genetic markers are different, it could turn into a toxin instead of a cure." Sam blinked, trying to follow. He had always known his son's mind was brilliant, but the depth of it still astonished him. "And you figured that out just by watching?" Elijah nodded firmly. "By watching, by listening, and by remembering what I read. They don't see it because they are stuck thinking like doctors. I'm seeing it like a problem, like a puzzle." Sam leaned back, torn between awe and worry. "Son, no one's going to listen to a janitor's boy. You know how they look at us. They'll laugh you out of the room." Elijah's face tightened with determination. "Then let them laugh. But I'm right, and if I don't say something, that man will die." The weight of his words pressed heavy. Sam knew what his son faced, a system where race, class, and uniform decided whether your voice mattered. And yet, here sat his boy, unshaken, burning with a fire the world couldn't dim. Moments later, chaos erupted upstairs once again. A loudspeaker blared. Code blue. Room 1501. Doctors sprinted past. Nurses wheeled equipment down the halls. The billionaire's body was failing again. Without hesitation, Elijah stood. "I'm going," he said, clutching his notebook. "Wait!" Sam called after him, but it was too late. The boy's long strides carried him into the restricted zone. Security guards moved to block him, but Elijah's voice rose above the noise. "You're killing him. You don't see it, but I do." The words froze the room. Nurses glanced at one another. Doctors paused mid-step. The arrogance of a janitor's son daring to speak in the sacred halls of medicine was almost unthinkable. A tall man in a white coat, Dr. Graham, the lead physician flown in from Harvard, turned slowly, his eyes sharp as glass. "Who said that?" he demanded. Elijah stepped forward, chest rising and falling quickly. "I did." He lifted his notebook, trembling but steady. "You're treating him wrong. His body is rejecting the medication. It's what's shutting down his organs." For a moment, silence filled the corridor. Then laughter, cruel and dismissive. One of the younger doctors smirked. "And who are you?" "The prodigy janitor." Elijah's face flushed, but he held his ground. "I'm the janitor's son, and I see what you can't." Dr. Graham's expression hardened. "Listen, Boy, we are 15 of the world's most accomplished physicians. We've spent decades studying medicine. And you, he gestured at Elijah's uniform and scuffed shoes. You're nobody. Go back to where you belong. Sam had caught up by then, his chest heaving from running. He pulled Elijah back, his voice low and urgent. Son, please, don't do this. They won't hear you. But Elijah's eyes never wavered. He held his notebook up, flipping to a page filled with equations and notes. It's not about who I am. It's about what's true. Look here. See this enzyme reaction? See how the toxin builds up in the bloodstream? That's why his skin is turning that color, and why his heart keeps failing. You think you're saving him, but you're not. You're drowning him. The room fell quiet again. Some of the younger doctors frowned, squinting at the notebook. One even whispered, "He's not wrong about the enzyme buildup." But Dr. Graham silenced them with a sharp glare. Enough, he snapped. This is absurd. Get this boy out of here. Security stepped forward, their hands already reaching for Elijah. Sam instinctively moved between them, his voice rough with anger. Don't touch my son. The guards hesitated, caught between orders and the father's fury. In that pause, Elijah's voice rang out, desperate, raw. If you keep doing what you're doing, he will be dead by morning. The words echoed down the sterile corridor like a prophecy. But pride is a stubborn disease, and Dr. Graham's pride was terminal. Take them away, he ordered coldly. I will not have a child mocking the work of medicine. Sam pulled Elijah close as the guards forced him back toward the elevator. The boy's notebook nearly fell, but Elijah clutched it tight, knuckles white. Tears burned to the edges of his vision, but his jaw stayed firm. He had spoken truth, and even if no one listened, he would not regret it. Downstairs, in the janitorial supply room, Sam sat heavily on a stool, his head in his hands. Elijah paced, restless, furious. They didn't listen, he muttered. They never listen. Not because I'm wrong, because of who I am, because of what I look like. He slammed his notebook shut. They think genius only wears a suit and speaks with a diploma. Sam looked up, eyes heavy with sorrow and pride. Son, I believe you. I always will. But the world is slower to believe. Elijah stopped, his voice breaking. But what if he dies? Dad? What if I had the answer, and they buried it because of me? Sam stood, placing both hands on his son's shoulders. Then you hold on to the truth. Because truth doesn't die. Even if they try to bury it, it rises. One day, they'll see what you see. And when that day comes, you'll stand taller than all of them. That night, while the city slept, the billionaire's room filled with the quiet rhythm of machines keeping him alive. Doctors whispered strategies, tried last-minute treatments, and avoided eye contact with one another. Fear had crept into their eyes, the kind they masked with professionalism but couldn't hide. And somewhere in the basement, a boy sat at a wooden desk, notebook open, drawing what he believed was a cure. His mind refused to rest, because genius cannot sleep when lives hang in the balance. The night at St. Charles Memorial Hospital stretched on like a storm refusing to end. The billionaire's suite glowed dimly under fluorescent lights, his frail body tethered to wires, tubes, and machines that beat in stubborn rhythm. Every hour, a doctor adjusted a dial, whispered a strategy, or scribbled notes, but their faces betrayed the truth. Defeat was inching closer. By 3 a.m., Richard Harlow's breathing had grown shallow, his skin waxy and gray. One doctor whispered what the others feared. We're losing him. The room fell into a heavy silence. No amount of wealth, no prestigious degree, no global reputation had managed to pull him back from the edge. 15 doctors stood powerless, each secretly aware that failure was about to stain their names. Downstairs, in the janitor's break room, Elijah's pencil scratched across his notebook with furious precision. His eyes were red from exhaustion, but his mind blazed like fire. Equations sprawled across the page, connecting symptoms with causes and chemical reactions with consequences. Finally, he set his pencil down and whispered to himself, I know it now. I know how to stop it. He had identified the toxic reaction building inside the billionaire's body. The medication, meant to heal, was being transformed into poison by a rare genetic marker Elijah had read about once in an obscure online paper. If they switched to a different compound, one rarely used, overlooked by mainstream medicine, the toxins would stop accumulating. The organs would stabilize. The man would live. But who would believe him? Elijah stood, clutching the notebook like it was his shield. "I have to try again," he told his father. Sam, sitting wearily with a mop leaning against his chair, shook his head. "They humiliated you once. Son, they won't treat you better the second time." Elijah's eyes burnt with quiet fury. "Then let them humiliate me again. But if I stay silent and he dies, I'll never forgive myself." Sam sighed deeply, knowing there was no stopping him. Pride swelled in his chest, mixed with fear for the pain his boy might endure. Then go, "Son, but remember, your dignity is worth more than their approval. Speak truth, but don't let their rejection break you." Elijah nodded, his jaw tight. "I won't." Upstairs, chaos once again filled the billionaire's room. Machines screamed alarms, nurses scrambled, and doctors barked orders at one another. "He's crashing," someone shouted. "Prepare the paddles." Dr. Graham stood at the center, sweat beading his forehead. He had built his reputation on saving lives that others couldn't. But tonight, his arrogance was unraveling into desperation. His every command sounded more like a plea than an order. The elevator door slid open, and through the crowd of staff, Elijah stepped in, notebook clutched tight. His heart pounded, but his voice rang clear. "Stop. You're killing him." The words hit the room like thunder. Everyone turned, shocked. There he was again, the janitor's son, daring to challenge the titans of medicine. Dr. Graham's face darkened with fury. "You again? Get this boy out before." But Elijah cut him off, his voice sharper than before. "Look at his liver function. Look at the discoloration on his skin. It's not the disease, it's a treatment. The medication is turning toxic inside him. If you don't stop now, he won't survive the night." For a moment, silence fell. One of the younger doctors glanced nervously at the charts, then at Elijah's notebook. He whispered, "The enzyme levels, they do match what he's saying." Dr. Graham turned on him with a glare. "Are you seriously entertaining this nonsense?" The younger doctor faltered, but Elijah pressed forward, flipping through his notebook with trembling hands. "You're ignoring what's right in front of you. The treatment you're giving him is designed for common reactions, but his markers aren't common. He's the rare case no one wants to consider. That's why everything you're doing is failing." Dr. Graham's jaw tightened. "And what? You suppose you have the answer? A child? A janitor's son?" Elijah lifted his chin, his voice steady. "I'm not asking you to believe me because of who I am. I'm asking you to believe me because of what's true. Look at the evidence. Look at the reaction. You don't have to trust me. Just trust the science." The billionaire's monitor blared louder. His body convulsed weakly, fighting for air. Nurses looked panicked, unsure whose orders to follow. Sam had appeared at the doorway, watching with clenched fists. He wanted to protect his son, to drag him away before the humiliation broke him again. But he also saw the fire in Elijah's eyes, the kind of fire no force on earth could put out. Finally, one of the elder doctors, a quiet man from overseas, stepped closer, his brow furrowed. He looked at the notes in Elijah's book, at the failing patient, and at the charts. Slowly, he whispered, "What if he's right?" Gasps filled the room. Dr. Graham's face turned crimson. "This is madness. I will not risk my patient's life on the delusions of a child." But the elder doctor pressed on. "And yet, all your treatments have failed. If he dies tonight, what legacy will that leave?" He turned to Elijah. "What do you propose, boy?" Elijah's heart thudded. His voice trembled but did not break. "You have to stop the current medication immediately. Flush his system. Then administer compound N13. It's not standard, but it bypasses the enzyme reaction. His body won't turn it into poison. It'll stabilize him." The elder doctor's eyes widened. He knew the compound. Rarely used, rarely considered, but not impossible. Dr. Graham scoffed. "Outrageous. Dangerous. Reckless." Elijah's voice cut through the noise like a blade. More dangerous than watching him die in front of you. The room froze. The billionaire's monitor let out another long, piercing beep. Nurses screamed, "Flatline!" Everyone moved at once, rushing for paddles, shouting over one another. But in the chaos, Elijah's words hung heavy, undeniable. What if is right? Sam watched, his chest tight with both terror and pride. His son had stood against giants, unafraid. He had spoken truth in a place designed to silence him. And though the room had not yet been chosen, a seed had been planted. That seed was about to change everything. The piercing sound of the flatline seemed to stop time itself. Nurses rushed forward with paddles, hands trembling, sweat dripping from their foreheads. "Clay!" someone shouted, and the billionaire's chest lifted with a violent jolt. The monitor blipped, then sank flat again. No response. Dr. Graham's voice rose above the chaos, commanding but cracking with desperation. "Charge again." The paddles pressed down once more, another shock ripping through the frail body. Still nothing. Whispers spread in the room, soft and panicked. "He's gone. It's over." Elijah's heart thundered in his chest. He could feel it. This was a final moment, the line between life and death, truth and denial. His voice erupted, louder than the machines, louder than the chaos. "Stop shocking him. Flush his system. Now." The doctors froze. Nurses looked at Dr. Graham, then at the elder physician who had spoken earlier. The billionaire's lifeless body lay still, as though waiting for decision. Dr. Graham's jaw clenched. "This boy is delusional. We cannot gamble on the ramblings of a janitor's son." But the elder doctor stepped forward, his voice low but firm. "It is no longer a gamble. It is the only path left." The room split. Some of the physicians shifted uneasily, unwilling to challenge their leader. Others, desperate, leaned toward Elijah's words like a final lifeline. The nurse by the full line whispered, "What if is right? What do we lose now?" Dr. Graham barked, "We lose everything if this boy is wrong." And then Sam's voice cut through, strong and unyielding, carrying the weight of years of silence broken. "You've already lost everything if you let pride bury the truth." The room went quiet. Sam's eyes locked with Dr. Graham's, unwavering. "You've tried and failed, again and again. You won't listen because my son does wear your white coat, because his skin isn't the color you expect genius to come in. But genius doesn't ask your permission. It speaks through truth. And tonight, truth is standing right in front of you." Elijah's small, trembling hands lifted his notebook, showing the diagrams one final time. "Please," he whispered, "you don't have to trust me. Just trust what's here. Trust the science." The billionaire's monitor screeched with its final warning. Every second felt eternal. The elder doctor made the decision. Stop the shocks. Flush his system. Prepare compound N13. Chaos erupted again, but this time with purpose. Nurses worked fast, draining the poison treatment from the billionaire's body. Another team prepared the rare compound, hands shaking as they drew it into the syringe. Dr. Graham shouted protests, but no one listened anymore. His authority was dissolving as quickly as the toxins were being drained. The injection slid into the billionaire's veins. For a moment, nothing happened. The room held its breath. Then, a flicker. The monitor let out a weak but undeniable beep. Gasps filled the air. The beeps grew steadier and stronger. His chest rose and fell with rhythm, color slowly returning to his cheeks. Nurses clutched each other in disbelief. One whispered, "It's working." Elijah's knees nearly gave out as relief flooded him. His father caught him by the shoulders, eyes glistening. "You did it, son. You did it." But Elijah shook his head. "No, Dad. The truth did it." Hours later, the billionaire lay stable, his breathing soft but steady. Outside the room, the hospital buzzed with rumors. The boy genius, the janitor's son, who saw what 15 doctors could not. Staff whispered in hallways, some in awe, others in shame. Dr. Graham sat slumped in a chair, his reputation unraveling before his eyes. No words could erase the arrogance that had blinded him. He avoided Elijah's gaze, unable to face the boy who had humbled him. The elder doctor approached Elijah and Sam, bowing his head slightly. "You saved him." Don't ever let anyone tell you your place in this world. You decide it. Sam's chest swelled with pride, tears threatening to fall. For years, the world had treated him as invisible. But tonight, his son's voice had made the invisible undeniable. Later, as dawn broke through the tall hospital windows, Richard Harlow stirred awake. His weak eyes opened, meeting the small figure standing at the foot of his bed. Who saved me?" he rasped. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to Elijah. The boy stepped forward, clutching his worn notebook, his voice soft but unwavering. "I did. I'm Elijah, the janitor's son." The billionaire's lips trembled, his gaze lingering on the boy as though seeing more than just a child. "Then I owe my life to you." For Elijah, it wasn't about gratitude. It wasn't about wealth or recognition. It was about dignity, the dignity of being heard, of being seen, of proving that truth has no color, no title, no uniform. When Elijah and Sam finally left the hospital that morning, the city was waking, the streets alive with the hum of a new day. Sam placed a hand on his son's shoulder, his voice thick with emotion. "You showed them, Elijah. You showed the world that genius can come from anywhere, even from a janitor's home." Elijah looked up at the rising sun, his notebook clutched close. "Dad, I don't want them to remember me as a genius. I want them to remember me as someone who spoke the truth, even when no one wanted to hear it." Sam smiled, pride and tears mingling. "And that, son, is greater than genius." As they walked home, the hospital behind them buzzed with whispers, but Elijah's heart was calm. He had not only saved a life, he had shaken the walls of prejudice, proving that dignity and truth shine brightest when the world tries hardest to hide them. Because sometimes the smallest voice in the room carries the power to save the world.